This is a newer article from Christmas Day, 12/25, 2011. It's actually Tuesday, 12/27, 2011. Talking about the World Dollar Standard's death certificate arrived in the mail this week. It's saying that the Bank of England's financial stability paper number 13, reform of the international monetary and financial system, was reported at Bloomberg Business Week, and it was seen by many policy observers around the world as the coroner's report on the death of the world dollar standard. So this is something, I'm not going to put too much faith in Lindsey Williams. I don't think he's a dishonest guy. Maybe the guy that he's getting the information from, the oil elite, is legit too. But let me just point out that it's kind of obvious that the world dollar standard is coming down, and it may be coming down in 2012. That corresponds to what he's saying. So despite what you're seeing on silver and gold prices, it is a good bet. And the prices go up a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people. I want to get off on a little track here because there's a lot of people around. The only thing they're concerned about is this stuff. And they know right now it does have power. It can buy things. It's not. I know it's a piece of paper, but you walk in any store and buy stuff, right? And now you're looking at the silver today. It's going down, right? It's not giving as much of this, but obviously it is a piece of paper, and I'm not going to worry about if they come out with a colored piece of paper or they got a green piece of paper. And I know this was the big conspiracy thing that they're coming out with this new $100 bill. Well, it's just nothing but a anti-counterfeiting measure. It's not that it's going to be any different from what it was. It's still going to be a piece of paper. I know that a lot of people are staying away from silver and gold because the volatility in the market goes up, it goes down. But you know what? I look at them, I say, the hell with them. That's what I look at it. Keep your paper money. I do both, but I'm primarily in physical silver, and I'm trying to make the right bets, and that's very important. But, if this stuff becomes totally worthless, the clowns that told me I'm high for freaking buying silver, I'm going to say the hell with them, and I'm not going to give a damn about them in the least, believe me. Because I look at this as reality. This is a piece of paper. It represents nothing but paper, and that's all there is to it. As far as this article again, they're talking about, and I know Steve Forbes is a bunch of, he's a halfway politician. He was running for political office as a president at one time. And it's talking also about the Heritage Foundation Conference on a Stable Dollar. And the Heritage Foundation, I want to tell you flat out, it's not exactly a true legit conservative organization. It's run by money. But it talks in here about Steve Forbes saying, a stable dollar, why we need it, how to achieve it. And Steve Forbes is talking for escalating the discourse from whether we should restore the gold standard to how to do so. So, and then should we fix the dollar price of gold? Now, yeah, if they fix the dollar price of gold to like $80,000 an ounce, I think that would be nice. But, in my mind, I'd almost think them pulling another Shruti like they did back in 1933, where gold was going for $20 an ounce. They say everybody turned it in, and then now it's $35 an ounce, but you can't own it. And I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't do the same thing again, including to the people in China. Because the reality is, if you got the force, you can do anything. You could say, I'll make a piece of paper, and it's got value because I said it's got value. You have the force behind it. You can do it pretty much. You can set the rules. But that's one reason I like the palladium and the platinum better than gold, because I don't think there's going to be as much of a fixation on it. They're going to be talking about setting a gold standard. They're not going to be talking about setting a palladium standard. But I I don't trust what these guys are doing, to tell you the truth. I don't trust anything these guys do. Whether they're playing to the crowd or not about talking about a gold standard and how are we going to do this. I don't trust anything these guys are doing. But the world dollar system has been pronounced almost now officially a failure. So that's what they talked about on this paper number 13 from the Bank of England. The main surprise is that the pronouncement took so long. So now Steve Forbes is calling for discussion how to restore gold, which I think is a lot of talk. And talking about monetary reform is going to be at the core of conservative consensus. Presidential aspirations are taking note, so anticipate gold legislation. I personally don't think it's going to come out like that. These guys are way too vicious, way too slick. And I know about Ben Bernanke, believe me. But, let him do his quantitative easing, because I think gold and silver is definitely still the right place to be. And when people will start panicking, there's going to be a lot more money. Those prices are going to go up a hell of a lot more. Whether the spot price goes up or not, the physical price is going to go up, because the market's going to rule, and it'll be the black market. They could tell you this physical price is $80 an ounce, and looking up on spot, it's $40 an ounce, or whatever, as an example. But it's going to be what people are willing to pay, and if they keep doing more quantitative easing, this stuff is nothing but paper, and that's really what it is. So it's a simple rule. What's going to happen to money? It's definitely going to go down in value. There's no question about it. I want to look at something here. This was about President Kennedy, and a lot of people who are into silver do know about this, even though they're talking. It's a little-known attempt. Executive Order 11110. On June 4th, 1963, President John F. Kennedy signed Executive Order number 11110 that returned the U.S. government to the power to issue currency without going through the Federal Reserve System. So when the U.S. government gets money from the Federal Reserve System, it's a loan, and you got to pay it back with interest. So when people pay taxes to the IRS, what they're really doing is paying interest to the Federal Reserve Central Banking System. And it's a nice racket if you're on top of the food chain. But I'm not, so I don't like it. That's just the way it goes. In all, Kennedy brought nearly $4.3 billion in U.S. notes into circulation. And those are all backed by silver. Now, I want to point out that the notes in circulation before were backed by silver, even before Kennedy did this, but the difference was they were coming from the Federal Reserve Bank, and anytime something comes from the Federal Reserve Bank, it was something that is in the form of a loan. But as far as the actual money that was in circulation up until November 1963, you can get the coins that were silver itself. And actually, if you did that, most people didn't do that back then, because generally speaking, they're stupid. I mean, that's really what you have to, they really have to say that. But back in 1964, you would have been smart to save all your money in silver, even back then, even though it took umpteen years for it to go to so much dollars per ounce. But $40 an ounce right now, I'd say that's probably about the fair trading ounce price of an actual good condition silver dollar from 1964 with collector value. I don't think, I think that makes it quite obvious where you should have kept your money. But it's a slow process. And, looking today, at the live gold and silver prices, you're seeing a pullback. But I think this is a lot to do with because of low volume. And, we know this is all paper trading, and maybe some of the physical buying is down a little bit because of the Christmas holidays. But consider what's going to happen on the other side of the world in January, when you got the Chinese New Year's coming into play, and you got more gift giving, and where they traditionally give gifts that contain gold, silver, platinum, maybe even palladium, probably not so much palladium, but gold, silver, platinum. And I would think that gift giving in platinum would be more attractive considering that the price is lower than gold. So you might see some kind of value going up as far as determined in fiat dollars in the beginning of the year, even though some of these values are going down right now. And I think that has a lot to do with the paper markets, and there's a lot of low volume going on, so they can play a lot of games. As far as what President Kennedy did, when he brought this money into circulation, it was like true money. And the thing is, it cut out the racket of the Federal Reserve. Nothing had to be paid back in interest. He brought the money into circulation. I know Abraham Lincoln did the same type of thing, and both these presidents were assassinated. And I know I personally think that has a lot to do with why they're assassinated. But anyway, another overlooked aspect of Kennedy's attempt to reform American society involves the money. Kennedy apparently reasoned that by returning to the Constitution, which states that only Congress shall coin and regulate money, the soaring national debt could be reduced by not paying interest to the bankers of the Federal Reserve System who print paper money, then loan it to the government at interest. So that's what he did when he created the money itself and backed it by the coins and silver that was in the U.S. Treasury. He totally bypassed the Federal Reserve and weakened the Federal Reserve notes. So they took him out. But quite obviously, despite what's going on in the markets today, that means still buy the silver. Don't listen to any of these morons that think these things are the best thing in the world, because it is nothing but a bunch of paper. And I get aggravated at these kind of people because usually I see them in the professional fields. They have no inkling about anything about metals. They think of it as highly speculative, and it is highly speculative in some ways. But looking at what's been going on in the money supply for the last 3 years, as much as they increase the money supply, it is quite obvious that your only safety is to get into hard assets, and it don't necessarily have to be silver and gold. And I tell you, I don't like gold that much. I'd rather be in platinum, palladium, and silver than dealing with gold. But you might see, there's a lot of big money flow into gold because they could do it electronically, but I don't trust anything electronic myself. And but looking at this trend, this is going to keep going. And now that Steve Forbes is starting to talk about it a little bit more through some of these pseudo conservative think tanks like the Heritage Foundation, and other papers are coming out from the Bank of England about the dollar standard being dead as the world reserve currency for coming up in this year. I think you're going to see a lot more impetus where there's going to be a much higher fiat value assigned to the metals. So despite what's going on right now in the markets today, and I tell you, this is one of my reasons for not being 100% into one thing. I don't like that. I mean, I like silver the best, but I'm in oil, and right now I'm looking at oil going up, and I'm thinking I'm glad I did that too, because it's like you got to spread your bets out. But I believe in being in 100% real assets that are needed by people, including agriculture, including the platinum, including the palladium, and spreading your bets out, because the money printers and all the professionals that are a bunch of bureaucrats, no matter what they do, they produce nothing. They're just shoveling around more of this stuff left and right between each other for talk and BS. And really what it comes down to is hard assets. And that's one reason I personally like to keep one foot in doing actual stuff myself, where I know how to do things myself with not just a paper shuffler. And I could play both games, but I don't trust this stuff at all. I don't trust this stuff at all. And we might see some serious changes in the markets for 2012. But I'm going to say this. Do not have any sympathy for people who are telling you wrong about silver, that put their number one faith in this stupid piece of paper that's sitting up here. Do not have any sympathy for them when they get proven wrong. That's the way I look at it. And I'm sticking with my bets and my instincts. But one thing I think a little different from most people is I do have a lot of faith in that metal, palladium. I think that's going to come up very strong as a longer-term bet, and it's not been doing bad in the last couple months actually too, because I guess some of the traders are realizing what's going to happen to it in the future because it's becoming more rare in the supply situation. But the one thing I like about that metal is I don't think they're going to be talking about, using palladium as part of the international monetary standard and playing games with fixing the price on it so much. It's really the only guys going to be fixing the price on palladium. It's probably going to be the Russians, and with their usual dumping on the market and whatever the heck they do. But I see some serious gains in that metal this year. I'm going to be dumping that ETF and going on to probably putting it into something else that I think is going to be going up. It may be physical nickels. I just might get a hell of a lot of those things, because what I'm thinking is nickels right now represent what 1964 was in the silver dollars. Although you got to keep a hell of a lot more volume of them, the intrinsic value is there. So it does pay to be flexible, but maybe silver's not a 100% answer for everything. But do not put any faith in this piece of paper. That's all it is. It's garbage.